Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 11 wide receiver start or sit decisions. Inside today's video, I'll be going in depth into every single matchup on the week from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys what I think you should start or sit the wide receivers in every single game. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. And if you have any questions about week number 11, doesn't even have to relate to the wide receiver position, make sure you ask down below in the comment section or in the Discord linked in the pinned comment and in the video description. I love talking to you guys down there. So without further ado, we're going to talk about our sponsor, DraftKings, a little bit later. Let's get in to today's video. Week number 11, wide receiver start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football. The Atlanta Titans, the Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers. So in this spot, I don't like any of the Tennessee Titans wide receivers. Treylon Burks did return from injury as he's been out for a majority of the season thus far. That is great to see because I do think Treylon Burks could be an incredible player for the Titans in the future. But honestly, based upon how we have seen this offense go all season long, there's no way you can trust any of Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook, Ikain, or Treylon Burks. Congratulations to Nick Westbrook for a humongous showing last week for the Titans, but ultimately, I do not feel confident starting any of these guys, even up against a Packers defense that isn't necessarily the best. For the Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson went absolutely fucking insane up against the Dallas Cowboys last week. Diggs was on Allen Lazard, so Christian Watson flourished. He ended up getting banged up in that game. Then he came back into the game. The motherfucker scored 3 touchdowns, so that was a fantastic performance from him. Am I saying that Christian Watson is a must-start wide receiver in every single game going forward? Of course not. But I do like the matchup up against the Titans defense, and I do think that Christian Watson proved last week that he is a valuable starter in this spot. I know Allen Lazard did not have the best game in that matchup up against the Dallas Cowboys. He was really doing nothing outside of that deep strike that Rodgers threw him late on into the game. He obviously didn't have the best fantasy day, but I'm going to just throw that game out a little bit. I'm not too worried. Without Romeo Dubes, Lazard and Watson are the guys, so I'm still fine going with Lazard even after one down performance. And then Sammy Watkins, these other Packers wide receivers, are going to be sits for me. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons to start off the Sunday slate. The Atlanta Falcons defense is absolute dick cheese, so we should expect yet another amazing performance out of Justin Fields. Justin Fields has ripped the NFL a new asshole. Every single week, Justin Fields somehow looks better. And at that play to end the game up against the Lions when he's shrugging off all these defenders and he ultimately gets sacked and then does a barrel roll after he gets sacked, it honestly looked like he was going to somehow juke all those guys out and throw some fucking bomb to Cole Kmet or Darnell Mooney. It was so crazy to see, but ultimately, Darnell Mooney has looked much better over the last couple of games. It does really appear that the addition of Chase Claypool and whatever Eberflus is doing in this offense is designing more plays for Justin Fields to actually flourish, thus giving Darnell Mooney the opportunity. If this was up against a tougher defense, I don't think I'd be comfortable starting Darnell Mooney, but because the Atlanta Falcons defense, again, is absolute dog shit, I'm going to go ahead and fire up Darnell Mooney. Drake London had a very good game last week up against the Panthers in prime time on Thursday Night Football. Do I expect that to be the normal for Drake London? Probably not, but he's such a good player, and the Bears defense isn't all that good that I'm starting him. But both of these guys are not guys that I'm going to bang the drum for aggressively, tell you guys that you have to throw Mooney and London into your lineup. If you have them and you need to play them, then you play them, but these are not guys that are obviously upper echelon starts. Chase Claypool does look good, but ultimately there's not enough really volume to Chase Claypool to make him fantasy relevant. Equimenius St. Brown is a sit. Olamide Zacchaeus or Damiere Byrd will likely score a touchdown in every single game, but you're never going to know which one it is, so you're sitting both of them down. Next up, we got the Panthers, who we just spoke about a little bit ago, at the Baltimore Ravens. DJ Moore was a guy that I wasn't overwhelmingly saying that he was a must-start last week, but I did really like him up against the Falcons. Ultimately, he shits the bed for me in prime time. But prior to that, he was starting to look good. I know the quarterback situation in Carolina is far from ideal. They got PJ Walker starting, but if this game goes sideways with how good the Ravens offense is, that is entirely possible. And then he ends up getting benched for maybe mono man Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield, who was just bashing his head up against the other Carolina Panthers players when they had their helmet on and he didn't. He was looking to go to the CTE city, but at the end of the day, DJ Moore is still a start for me. Again, kind of like Drake London and Mr. Darnell Mooney, who we just talked about. Not guys that I'm overwhelmingly confident in, but if I had to play them, I don't necessarily mind the matchup because, again, they're going to have to be throwing late in the game. Terrace Marshall as well as Laviska Shenault. I think Terrace Marshall, you could consider starting him, but again, the Ravens defense has looked slightly better. And then all these Ravens receivers, there's so many injuries to the Baltimore Ravens. They've got Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet II. I don't want to start any of them. Next up, we got the Browns at the Buffalo Bills. And the weather for this game is looking incredibly grim. It appears that we might see a huge snow flurry in this game, a blizzard of sorts, not the thing you get from Dairy Queen, the actual blizzard where it snows a shit ton, which would not be ideal for the passing attack in this game. So this is something that you might want to write down or jog into your brain and remember that, hey, on Sunday, make sure you check the weather of the Bills-Browns game because if it's snowing a shit ton and heavily windy, you probably don't want to start these guys. Especially Amari Cooper, whose home versus away splits are absolutely hilarious. I actually pulled this up for the trade target video that I do over on Stokastic Fantasy Football. Make sure you guys check that out after this video. But his home road splits are hilarious. Amari Cooper at home, wide receiver, this is in half PPR, wide receiver 10, 4, 11, 24, and 6. Amari Cooper away, wide receiver 84, 90, 32, and 67. And if there's going to be a fucking blizzard, you probably want to stay away from Amari Cooper, but again, it's only Tuesday. The weather can change. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. I would be comfortable still playing Diggs because I think he's just so integral to this offense that even if it's snowing, Josh Allen could get him the ball. So I'm still going to start Diggs, but I would be a little bit more nervous when it comes to Gabe Davis. Donovan Peoples-Jones is just a baked-in 10 points every game. But again, some crazy-ass snow and wind could drastically affect that. Again, want to talk about this more as we get closer to Sunday with the wide receiver rankings video later on in the week. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell are sit as well as Isaiah McKenzie. Next up, we got the Washington Commanders at the Houston Texans. Terry McLaurin made one of the best catches of the season, in my humble opinion, last week in primetime up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Taylor Heinicke absolutely slays the Philadelphia Eagles. A very interesting game. Some people are calling it a ref show. There was very bad calls by the refs in that game. Especially, there was one where it was very clearly a face mask penalty and they didn't call it. Then people are saying that that hit on Heinicke shouldn't have been roughing the passer. Look, I get why you might say that if you're an Eagles fan, but at the end of the day, like, the guy had time to stop. Heinicke is, like, laying there. People are saying that, oh, it's weird for a guy to run out of the pocket and take a knee. I agree with you, but it's very clear what he was doing. Another Eagle touched him, and then he got fucking ramsacked by another one. Again, I'm not here to suck the cock of the referees because half the time the refs blow the whistle. I disagree with it, but I do actually think that call wasn't as egregious as people said. Terry McLaurin had a fantastic showing. Curtis Samuel, on the other hand, did not, but one down game up against probably one of the most tough defenses in the NFL, if not the best defense in the NFL. I'm not going to go ahead and panic. He did get a lot of opportunities to carry the ball, though. He did rush the ball a couple of times, which is good and positive for this matchup against the Texans, who are dead last in the NFL against the run. They cannot stop the run worth jack shit. So Curtis Samuel is worthy of a start here up against the bad Texans. Jahan Dotson is an interesting player. I think he's a fantastic player, but with how McLaurin and Samuel have played, not Sutton, I do not feel as confident in him. Brandon Cooks did not play great last week, probably because he wants to get traded. Nico Collins is there. He's a talented player. So is Chris Moore. But ultimately, I don't really want to start them. And like I've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, the Commanders' defense typically gets better around the halfway mark of the season, which we've seen over the last couple of years. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen the Commanders' defense look pretty good. So I'm just staying away from all these Houston Texans wideouts. Next up, we pivot to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Indianapolis Colts and Jeff Saturday. But before we get into things, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. I'll point to them right now. They've been on the screen this whole entire video. If you're a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook and you click on the link in the video description down below or in the pinned comment, they have an excellent offer for you. You bet $5 on any sport pre-game money line, you receive $200 if your bet wins. Now, since your bet has to win, there is a sport that I would suggest. So I'm going to throw it right now onto the screen. You're looking at DraftKings Sportsbook. You're going to navigate over to the college football tab, because in college football, there are much bigger favorites compared to the NFL that are much more likely to win. Last night, if you're watching this on Tuesday, we all watched Monday Night Football that we just talked about. And the Eagles were big favorites to beat down on the Commanders, but guess who won? The Commanders. So in my opinion, I think you should look to college football here. My favorite pick for college football this week is Ohio State minus 6,000 at Maryland. Bet $5 on that, win $200 in free bets if that team Ohio State wins. Or you could scroll down a little bit and go to Florida State versus Louisiana Lafayette minus 2,400. Bet $5 on that, win $200 in free bets if your bet wins. So make sure you guys check that out. You got to be a new user to DraftKings Sportsbook and click on the link down below in the video description or in the pinned comment. Make sure you guys check that out, because this offer will not last forever. It will eventually disappear, so make sure you take advantage of it before it is too late. Back on into things, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, A.J. Brown laid an absolute dud on Monday Night Football. Now, it wasn't technically a dud. He didn't drop a fucking goose egg where he scored 0 points. But essentially, if you needed A.J. Brown to score 4 points, you fucking lost, and that is not the usual for A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith went absolutely nuclear. I believe yesterday on Monday was his birthday, so happy birthday to Devontae Smith, who fumbled the ball at the end of the game. But hey, Devontae Smith had a solid outing. Devontae Smith is incredibly risky, but he's high risk, high reward, because there's going to be games where he's finished outside of the top 100 wide receivers this season, but he's also finished as the #1 wide receiver this season. That's because they have guys like A.J. Brown. They have Dallas Goedert, who's now hurt, so maybe that gives even more positivity towards Devontae Smith. But they have Miles Sanders. They have Gainwell. They have these other backs they want to give the ball to. There's a lot of players on this team that get the football. But ultimately, to me, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are must-starts every week. I don't expect A.J. Brown to put up another performance like that again. Michael Pittman Jr. with Matty Ice, Ice, baby. Dun, 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 back under center. I like Michael Pittman in this spot. Paris Campbell has been incredibly successful with Matt Ryan under center over the last couple of games that they've played. The biggest issue is that they're playing the Eagles. So if this was any other matchup, I'd be banging the drum for Paris Campbell. But in this spot, we're going to sit him down. Same thing goes with Alec Pierce and Quez Watkins. Next game here, we got the New York Jumbo Jets at the New England Deflatriots, which should be a pretty low-scoring game, I would think. Pretty run-heavy game, in my opinion. With that said, though, Garrett Wilson has been feasting over the last couple of weeks. Last time these two teams played, Garrett Wilson looked exquisite. Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter, has been far from ideal ever since coming back. But ultimately, with the Elijah Moore craziness that's happened, with the fact that they don't really have anyone that I would be confident in throwing the ball to at a high pace or a high rate outside of Garrett Wilson, he's going to continue to get fed the ball even if the Patriots defense is good. Because he's playing the Patriots, he's not an upper echelon start, but I do think the targets will make up for the fact that the matchup is tough. Jacoby Myers is also a start, hasn't really been that much of a stud this season, but he's also been a guy that you can rely on every single week. He's not necessarily ever really a smash start, especially against the Jets defense. That's really tough, especially Sauce Gardner. You've been lost in the sauce, is what they're saying. Lost in the sauce if Sauce Gardner's on you, but again, I don't know if Sauce is necessarily going to shadow Jacoby, so I'm still fine playing Jacoby. Elijah Moore, dud this year, bust, you might even want to say. Braxton Berrios, he's a fun player to watch, but he's a sit. Tyquan Thornton, I thought at one point in this season that he'd be good. He did have that one flash game, but outside there's been nothing. And then Devontae Parker is a sit as well. Next up, we got the LA Rams at the New Orleans Saints. Matthew Stafford misses last week, and then they get the worst news possible. Cooper Kupp's going to be out for at least the next 4 games. Wouldn't surprise me if it was the whole season, especially if the Rams aren't in playoff contention. If they roll Cooper Kupp back out there in 6 weeks, that would be fucking stupid. We're already in week 11, so 6 weeks is basically the end of the season. It's not necessarily a season-ending injury, but it doesn't seem super positive. Matthew Stafford should be back this week. I loved Allen Robinson in the offseason. I sung his fucking praises. I sung the prayers. I lit some fucking candles. I lit a visual to this guy, and he sucked absolute donkey cock all season. I don't feel confident in playing him. But Nick, Cooper Kupp's gone. I don't even care that Cooper Kupp isn't there because Robinson hasn't done shit until he proves differently. Van Jefferson, amazing talent. Issue, Stafford's been off too. Same thing with Allen Lazard. So, not Allen Lazard, Allen Robinson. So until we see something change with Stafford actually looking good, I don't know how I can reasonably tell you guys to start Allen Robinson or Van Jefferson or the boy Ben Skoranek. Chris Olave for the Saints is a start. He's another one of those players that I talked about in my trade targets video over on Stokastic Fantasy Football. Make sure you guys do check that out. I like Chris Olave a ton. Without Michael Thomas, it seems very positive that Chris Olave is going to continue to see a buttload, as if this is some PG channel, an ass load of targets from either famous Jameis Winston or the Red Rocket, the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. Problem is, Andy Dalton sucks. I don't understand what they're thinking. Like, what is Dennis Allen thinking? Like, why the fuck is Jameis not starting? Like, I know Jameis has the risks. He makes those crazy plays, but at the end of the day, he's so much more exciting. Like, the games just suck to watch when Andy Dalton's under center. But even still, Olave is a guy that I want in my lineup. Jarvis Landry, he's decent in deeper leagues, but he's not a guy that I'm forcing in my lineup. Same thing. I'm not going to say the same thing about Traquan Smith. I think he's a good player, but we haven't really seen him fully utilize that in fantasy football in the NFL. Like last year, I was a big Traquan Smith guy. We remember how that went. Next up, we move to the Detroit Lions at the New York Football Giants. Are the Giants a top 5 team in the NFL? In terms of skill group, no. Like, they're not the most talented players, but Brian Daboll does something to these fuckers that makes them just play out of their mind. It's amazing to see. I'm not a Giants fan. I'm a Dolphins fan. They're on bye this week, sadly. But man, oh man, it is very impressive what Daboll has done to this Giants team. If you are a Giants fan, don't be surprised. I'm not trying to jinx you or something. Don't be surprised if you win a playoff game this year. Like, Daboll is the real deal. The real deal. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was a guy I talked about in my trade target video last week as a guy that you want to trade for, and then bada bing, bada boom, step inside the room, he bounces back up against the Bears. The Giants defense definitely better than the Bears, but ultimately got to roll out Amon-Ra St. Brown with the confidence that he does have the upside to be a top 5 guy. Darius Slayton smashed last week in that matchup for the Giants up against a garbage Houston Texans defense. They're back up against another garbage defense in the Detroit Lions, so I like Slayton. But while I think he's a very talented player, I am not going to bang the drum high enough because I do still worry about Wan'Dale Robinson. Kenny Golladay got benched last week, which was hilarious. Kind of what I'm trying to say here is that I don't think that Slayton is guaranteed to be the number 1 receiver on the team going forward. Tom Kennedy, very interesting player to watch, fun player to watch. Not the best for fantasy. Khalif Raymond, very interesting as well, but ultimately I'm not going to start either of them in this spot. Next up, we move to the turn your volume down, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. The Raiders just lost to Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday. Everyone in the media was bashing this guy, fucking destroying him. Like, oh my God, why did the Colts hire Jeff Saturday? And then Jeff Saturday throws his nuts into a wheelbarrow, walks onto the field, and beats Josh McDaniels. How the fuck does Josh McDaniels still have a job? I have no idea. I have no idea how Josh McDaniels still has a job. And then, And then Mark Davis comes out. He's like, oh, Josh is doing a great job. A great job? This offense was supposed to be fucking amazing. And this offense is fucking putrid. I wouldn't even wipe my ass with the defense or in the whole offense, the whole team. The team is awful. The team is so fucking bad. And I'm not even a Raiders fan. I had such high expectations, and they have been absolutely slain by Josh McDaniels, dumbass. And the funniest part was that the Colts were originally going to hire Josh McDaniels, and then they didn't, if you remember, where he kind of pulled out of that deal. Fuck that guy. I hate Josh McDaniels now. Devontae Adams still a start, though. Even in all the bad that's happening in Las Vegas with the Raiders, you got to fire up Adams, even up against a incredible Broncos defense. Funny stat, the Broncos would have won every game except for one if they just scored exactly 18 points because of how good their defense is. But Mr. Unlimited, dangerous Wilson sucks ass. Cortland Sutton's a start because Judy's most likely not going to play. The Raiders' defense is absolutely atrocious. You smell that? It's the Raiders' defense. It smells like shit. But maybe you're also just smelling the Broncos' offense. But hey, Sutton's going to be a start. Mac Hollins, I sung the praises of last week. He kicked me directly in the cock. Keelan Cole's a sit. And then outside of Sutton, they have Jalen Virgil, who scored a bomb touchdown from Russell Wilson. Kendall Hinton, former quarterback / wide receiver for the Broncos. He's a sit as well. Next up, we got the Cowboys at the Vikings. How about them Cowboys, baby? How about them boys? Every year, it's the same shit with the Cowboys. You hear them sung the praise, and then a team like the Packers, who's absolutely dog shit, smacks them. Front hand, backhand, Will Smith style. Fucking kicked them down the well 300 style. It was hilarious to watch. Very funny. CD Lamb is a start. Looked good against the Packers. Vikings defense doesn't really concern me. Josh Allen looked bad in that game, and still the Vikings defense wasn't really able to capitalize off that. So I like Lamb. Justin Jefferson's a must start. Justin Jefferson, literally, like I said that Jeff Saturday walked with a wheelbarrow of his nuts. This guy, Justin Jefferson, put his nuts on the forehead of the Buffalo Bills defense and teabagged them like they're playing Modern Warfare 2. So Justin Jefferson must start, in my opinion, obviously, every week. Adam Thielen continues to get the targets, but continues to disappoint. So that's an issue. But he still keeps getting the targets, so you can still talk yourself into starting him. The Cowboys defense did play good against Lazard, but we just saw Christian Watson play amazing. Michael Gallup, every week it's like, oh, they have no one else besides Lamb. They're going to give the ball to Gallup, and then they don't. Hate to see it. No Brown's a sit. KJ Osborne, also a sit. Next up, we move to the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Throw out the record book when these two teams play. The AFC North matchup. The king in the North. Titty boy T. Higgins must start every week. Last time out, they were on bye last week. The Steelers were also on bye. Dude, that was hard to watch. The Steelers actually weren't on bye. They were on bye the week before. I completely lied, but you get what I'm saying. The Bengals were hard to watch prior to the bye week. That game without Jamar Chase up against the Browns. Shocking. The Browns just got their ass clapped by the Dolphins. And Burrow looked like Stevie fucking Wonder in that game. Could not see anything. But I expect him to bounce back. Last time these two teams played was an incredible game, week 1, I believe. So let's see what happens this time. T. Higgins and Boyd must starts without Jamar Chase. Must starts. Johnson continues to get the targets, continues to not perform. Kind of like Adam Thielen. He's still the number 1 target on the team, but I trust George Pickens more. Don't love either of them in this game, if I'm being honest with you. But they're still listed as starts, but they're not upper echelon starts. Michael Thomas, the only healthy one in the NFL, he's a sit. Steven Sims and these other Steelers receivers are also a sit. Now we move to Sunday Night Football. We just got the Chargers experience, so we got the Chargers again, baby. Back-to-back games on Sunday Night Football. Exciting. Chiefs at Chargers. Juju gets hurt. Very hard to watch when any player gets hurt like that. Again, the NFL rules are very weird on concussions right now. Justin Herbert, the pervert, gets knocked down, looks like a concussion, gets up, goes back into the game. So the rules seem to be different based upon player, based upon team. Now, I'm not some NFL conspiracy theorist, but I wouldn't be shocked necessarily if Juju played, so that's why he's listed as a start. He is the number one receiver on the team. Kadarius Toney, that slick bastard, looked incredible. Incredible against the Jaguars. The Giants fan, so look, the Giants had to trade him because he didn't want to play, but if I was a Giants fan, I would be so pissed at Kadarius Toney right now. Imagine Toney with Daniel Jones and Daboll. Imagine, like, how good that could have been. Obviously, much better with Mahomes and Reed, but it was very funny to see Kadarius Toney, like, limp his way into the end zone, hobble his way in, like he's trolling all the Giants. Like, hey, look, I wasn't actually hurt. My hamstring wasn't hurt. Fucking hilarious. But if Juju doesn't play, you got to play Toney. And if Juju doesn't play, I think you got to play MVS, even though he was banged up last week. Or no, he was not banged up. The other guy was banged up, McCole Hardman. MVS played last week. He got hurt in the game, but he scored a touchdown. He looked good. So if Juju doesn't play, I'm playing MVS. Now, it's reported that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen might play this week. I doubt it. I doubt both of them are going to play, but maybe we see both of them play. This is, again, something we will have to revisit in the rankings video. If Allen plays, I guess I start him over Palmer. If Williams plays, I start him over Palmer. But I don't feel comfortable. I do feel comfortable playing them because I know the upside is there. I know there's a story of this game that is played out where it's a tit-for-tat, high-scoring game, back and forth, blow-for-blow affair. There's also an affair where the Chiefs skull-fuck 50 Shades of Grey style sodomize the defense. So we'll see. We shall see. Right now, Palmer's listed as a start, but again, things can change. For the other Chiefs, again, really just depends on the health of Juju. Like we talked about, final game here. Monday Night Football, back-to-back weeks on prime time for the 49ers as well. Interesting, at the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler should be back this week. If he's not, oh, this is going to be a bloodbath. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel both shit the bed against the Chargers. Deebo's been a disaster, but the problem with Deebo is even though he's been a disaster, in the back of your mind, the second you sit Deebo down on the bench, this motherfucker is going to hang 3 touchdowns on the Cardinals or something, right? The Cardinals defense looked great last week, but that was against John Wofford. So, congrats. Deebo and Ayuk are starts. DeAndre Hopkins is must start. So is Rondale Moore. Love both of them in this spot, even up against a stout Niners defense. Again, assuming Kyler Murray plays. Jawan Jennings is a sit. Robbie Anderson has 3 targets since he joined the Arizona Cardinals, so he's also a sit. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so. It's been on the screen the whole time, at NotoriousFNTSY. If you have any questions about week number 11, please ask down below in the comment section or in the Discord. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you check out that offer on DraftKings as well. Bet $5. If you're a new user, click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment. Win $200 in free bets if your bet wins. I love you guys all so much. Hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.